welcome to URBONUS podcast. Rytis Vyšniauskas, Donatas URBONUS. As always, we're here to talk about some EuroLeague basketball, but I will start with some unusual intro, because this morning I had a very funny conversation with my friend from abroad, and we actually talked about legendary player Aurelijus Žukauskas. Just wanted to give some respect for all these heroes, old school heroes. You know, we have a topic like Zero of the Week and Hero of the Week, and we just had a nice conversation about Aurelijus, who started his career at the age of 21. Neptūnas coaching staff found him in working in constructions, and in his second season with Neptūnas, he made a record of LKL blocks, single game record. He holds it even to this day, together with Grigori Hizhniak, 11 blocks per game. And my friend told another interesting story about the current player, Ahmet Duverioglu. And again, these are all only legend. This is only a legend, but they say in Turkey that Turkish agent found him on a ferry in Turkey. He was around 19, 20-year-old. And he invited him for some tryouts. Anadolu Efes had him in practice, and then he signed for Efes. Then later he became EuroLeague champion. Žukauskas even made a better career. He became EuroLeague champion. European. He won the Eurobasket. He played in the Olympic Games. He made a fadeaway three against Tim Duncan probably in 2004 Olympic Games, right? He played for Unix, Ulker, Žalgiris, Olympiakos. Many great teams. So I just wanted to give some respect for all these heroes.
He was the Lithuanian Rudy Gobert.
Exactly.
At that time, he was an elite rim protector.
Oh my God.
That 2003 Eurobasket winning team, everyone talks about Saras, about Matsi, about Žukauskas, but none of this would be possible without Aurelijus Žukauskas protecting the paint. I think in that tournament, he was a beast. His numbers were great, and if you remember the final against Spain, all of the Lithuanian players were taking fouls against Pau Gasol. Everybody tried to stop him, tried to do their best, and if not for Aurelijus Žukauskas and his sacrifices, who knows if we had this title. Yeah, it was a great, amazing career, and I never knew this about Ahmet Duverioglu. However,
me neither.
When you mentioned him, I thought of Oscar da Silva, actually, Alba Berlin's newcomer, a player that we got to know this season. Before the season, probably we did not even know who he is. If somebody would mention to me Oscar da Silva, I would imagine it's a Brazilian football player, but he is a great EuroLeague player, to be honest, from what we're seeing so far. A player who started his professional career, I believe, last spring, after 4 years in Stanford University. His father was a professional boxer. His father was Brazilian. And what strikes me the most is that Oscar da Silva fluently speaks 6 languages.
And he's super smart, right?
Yeah.
He's very well educated. He took some very tough
He
studies.
majored in biology, and he carried out a stem cell research. Can you imagine the IQ of this team with Sigma and da Silva being there?
No, they're too smart for this game.
For sure. Yeah. So Oscar da Silva this season is a name that now everybody knows who follows EuroLeague, but before you couldn't imagine that this is a great basketball player who has a great future, and I believe he can go far.
Of course.
He has a great body. He's a fighter. Reads the game very well. Wow.
He can score both from inside and outside. I mean, these heroes, unsung heroes, who started from the bottom, they're the best. I think we will discuss some of them during this podcast. We will discuss some of the main games we had last week. Again, we will have fan mail, our top 3 rank. Today we will talk about the best atmospheres I managed to visit through my journeys following Žalgiris Kaunas or other EuroLeague games. And pretty much it, right? Let's just start from the game in Milan.
Yeah, let's start from your
And it was the big...
From your trip, first of all, you were there. Yeah.
It was an unexpected trip because my wife is expecting in a couple of weeks. And when I came from my last journey, it was probably in Milan also with Gytis currently sitting over there. I was like, it's over. I'm not going to travel before my child's birth, and later maybe I will travel again in the end of December. But unexpectedly, we got an opportunity to interview Šarūnas Jasikevičius, and it was much easier and more, let's say it was better for me to go to Milan and to come back the next day. I couldn't afford to spend few days like we usually do during the season. And for example, Barcelona trip is it takes much longer than Milan. It's easy to go to Milan from Lithuania. And I went to Milan on a game day. I had an interview with Saras. It will be published on Tuesday. It was pretty good interview. He was very interesting as always. Later that night, it was another amazing atmosphere because it was funny that it was my third game in Milan this season. I visited Milan and Mediolanum Forum more times than Žalgiris Arena this year, and I'm super happy about it. The way Žalgiris plays and the way Milan plays, I mean, it's much better choice. And the game was amazing. Milan was great. Barcelona made a great comeback. I couldn't expect them to come back in that game that way. But then Milano again won the game. The atmosphere was crazy because usually, if you remember, we had few Lithuanian players, for example, Mačiulis, Kleiza, and they kind of complained about the atmosphere in Milan. They compared it to something like, watching the movie in cinema. You can even hear the sound of eating popcorns or stuff like that during the game. Now it's way different because this team is very inspiring. All these veterans, emotional veterans like Gigi Datome, Nicola Meli. Coach Messina is also very emotional. The way they play, I mean, even Giorgio Armani, who is usually, let's say, not so shy, but he's pretty calm. He was like giving all these fist bumps after the game. I was like also, waiting on the line. I was like, maybe I should try to give a fist bump, but I was okay. Let's stay professional. So it was an exciting game, and we can discuss some details of that game.
Well, I believe that Olimpia Milano fans are actually passionate. It's a historic club. It's just that the club has been going through very bad times. I mean, decades. They were investing, they were signing players, but they were hiring wrong coaches, and they always had a team full of chaos. And when you're not winning, when you're not playing good basketball, even the most loyal and passionate fans get depressed at some point. But now for the recent years, Milano got better. Of course, last season they played in an empty arena without their fans, and I'm not that surprised. I actually know that Milan has some passionate basketball fans. Actually, when I was in Milan, I was with a purpose to visit San Siro and see football, but I went to some small cafe, which turns out to be a basketball-themed cafe, and the waiter comes to us and serves us coffee, and I just asked him about basketball and stuff, and he says, I'm a huge fan of Olimpia Milano, been supporting the club for like 20 years or something. So there are people
It was near San Siro?
No. It was somewhere in the neighborhood I was staying.
Okay.
We had an Airbnb, and it was just very close to us. So one morning we decided to go for coffee there, and I didn't know, but apparently it was a basketball-themed cafe, and the waiter was a huge basketball fan. So there are people like this. But of course, San Siro football, actually last weekend was the Derby della Madonnina, I believe it is said, the Milan derby. So basketball is sort of overshadowed, but there is tradition, and there is passion. And getting back to the game, what was impressive actually, that the first quarter definitely went Messina's way. 20 points. They were getting good spot-up shots. Saras emphasized before the game that we need to take away their spot-up shots. They're a great three-point shooting team. We have to force them shoot off the dribble. In the first quarter, Barcelona couldn't do that. Second quarter, completely different. Second quarter was low scoring. It was tough to break the defense. I believe that at this point in the game, Milan basically kept their lead because of Devon Hall. He was playing brilliant basketball with the ball in his hands. I actually liked the rotation of the big guys Messina had to offer. He was playing with Hines, some limited minutes with Tartsevsky. Then he switched to Mitoglou and Meli. And I was covering this game, and I said that Nikola Mirotic will have a tough night because Mitoglou and Meli both are capable of guarding him, having these long arms. Both are very smart players and quick players. They can guard him in the perimeter. It will be tough for Nikola Mirotic, and as we saw, it was a difficult game for him. He only scored 10 points.
It was also difficult for him to stay in defense because in some situations he switched on Sergio Rodriguez and he left him into his right, and he was always killing him. So it was a tough game for Miro. Although I'm not so sure if that was the right decision to keep him until the 38th minute of the game.
He sat on a bench for 8 minutes of the fourth quarter. And this is what I said about Barcelona with Saras. They're playing this strict basketball. And if Roland Schmitz is there setting some good screens and doing a good job in the paint, he stays on the court. Mirotic sits on the bench, even though you're watching the game and thinking Mirotic is the best player in the EuroLeague. He has to be on the court. These are clutch minutes. So, but he went in only, as you said, with less than 2 minutes left.
Something like that.
Of course, Barcelona managed to find some weak spots in the fourth quarter. Barcelona had problems, but they started the fourth quarter very well with a 12-0 run. They were feeding Brandon Davis. Nigel Hayes was playing a lot from the post, and it was a success at that point. Olympia, I believe they stopped playing team basketball. For 5 minutes, they couldn't score because there was no ball movement. They were not getting the ball in the paint at all. They were just trying to play some one-on-one isolation basketball, which wasn't working. But this is a smart team, and no surprise that they managed to overcome these struggles and then again start playing good basketball when it matters the most. And I believe the turning point was obviously Gigi Datome's three-pointer with a foul.
Yeah.
And when you foul Gigi Datome 3 times, shooting the basketball in a single game, you cannot expect a good result. You're just giving away cheap points. This cannot be tolerated. He was fouled twice, shooting a three-pointer. One time he was fouled on a jump shot from 2-point distance. And those things, you know what Saras thinks about that type of fouls.
Oh, yeah, and he told it very clearly after the game. I was waiting for the post-game interview with Rokas Jokubaitis for our Lithuanian readers. And usually it happens like that. I mean, you wait for the locker room speech. It's usually very, very short, like up to 1 minute. Then coach leaves for the coaching staff locker room, and then he leaves for the press conference. And then players, or before or after the shower, they show up and you can have an interview. So that locker room speech took something around 20-30 minutes, even when Milano's press officer was waiting for Saras, because usually the EuroLeague post-game press conference, the official one, starts with the away team head coach statement. Claudio from Milan team was waiting for Saras for quite some time, and Barcelona's press officer just came to say that, hey, listen, just take Ettore Messina first because it will take some time. And it took some time. Barca players had pizza delivery after the game, but I believe that pizza was cold when we had it, because it was a long speech. I won't get it. I won't tell it in details. It could be, wrong. I mean, because I kind of accidentally, I was in that corner. Yeah, because, I wasn't like standing behind the door of the locker room. The thing is that there's a long corridor at Mediolanum Forum. And usually away team and the coaching staff use 2 locker rooms. And even standing kind of in the end of that tunnel, in that corridor, I could almost hear everything what was said. It was really hot locker room speech, Saras was really, really angry. But you could understand the main idea of his reaction in the press conference or during the game, after the game. I think that he expected more from his main players. For example, from Nikola Mirotic's side, from the defensive standpoint, Nick Kalaitis sometimes
had some good moments.
He had some good moments, but sometimes he was not so focused and made some, bad passes. Corey Higgins actually played a very bad game. It seems like he's not in shape so far.
The decision to take a jump shot at the end of the game when it was still possible to come back. It was not a smart one because obviously the opposition is expecting Kalaitis, is begging Kalaitis to take a jump shot. This is the best that the defense can get. When there's Mirotic on the court, Higgins on the court, and you can choose Nick Kalaitis taking a shot from distance.
And they had plenty of time
you would take it,
till the end of the possession.
It was a rushed decision.
I can clearly understand the Saras because for me it was also strange that I was surprised the way the level of the game dropped when the starters came back on the court. How bad they looked before the reserves came in and had that incredible run to make a comeback in the end of the game. It was really nice to see all these guys like Jokubaitis, Schmitz, even Laprovitola, Hayes, Davis fighting and getting the lead. But at the same time, being as a star player, you cannot allow such a drop of the level of the game. And probably that was what Saras was challenging after the game. He was super angry, but you can probably understand him because just how we had an interview before the game, he was telling that at this point of the season, he never looked at the standings, and for him the most important thing is the growth of the team. And for quite some time, we can remember the game in Tel Aviv, he doesn't see that kind of growth, and probably this is the moment when you have to step in to challenge the team. He also mentioned that players always trying to challenge him, and it's always like checking the limits of each other's, and it's normal that some conflicts occur during that journey. But for him, the most important thing is the growth, the process, and even though the result was not bad, I mean, -5 against the best team of the EuroLeague so far is not that bad, but the presence of star players is not tolerated by Saras so far.
I think he fully understands that right now they have 6 victories. It could be 3 or 4, knowing that they won 2 games in overtimes, they won with a buzzer beater in Istanbul, and yes, they're not consistent enough. They're not playing quality basketball. In some moments, they start playing quality basketball, but these are moments. They do not last for 40 minutes for 4 quarters. And if you want to consistently beat teams like Armani, well, you need to be very consistent. The one moment in this game that I really enjoyed was Sergio Rodriguez hitting the dagger off the dribble, his famous shot. At this point,
against Mirotic, right?
On switch. I believe at this point Mediolanum exploded.
It was boiled up. Really.
Sergio Rodriguez, it's not like he was having a great game in numbers, but you know that when the last possessions come, you want the ball in his hands, and he knows what to do. And this is Chacho. This is what he loves to do. He loves to close games with his amazing jump shots off the dribble.
Yeah, and he made I think he made a couple of crucial shots. He scored only 6 points. It was really not the best game for him, but he was very important, as well as Luigi Datome. It's such a pleasure to see a veteran making such a huge impact for the game. He scored 17 points and he made all these important shots. Also, there was a very important three-pointer, a very tough three-pointer in the end of the third quarter. And also in the end of the fourth quarter, besides that great 3-on-1 play, he also made some good defensive stops, even though he was attacked all game long on the low post by Barcelona players, for example, Nigel Hayes.
By the way, Kyle Hines made his second three-pointer of his career in EuroLeague. Only second.
He shot like a guard, actually. You know, his footwork and stuff, his preparation for that last second shot was nice.
In 11 years, it was his second three-pointer.
He's better than that.
And you know what? Both of his three-pointers were against Barca.
Okay.
He hit one in Palau when he was playing for CSKA. Now he hits one in Mediolanum playing for Milano.
And he made that crazy block. I think it was against Hayes, right?
Oh yeah, it was against Hayes.
And it was the moment.
Get that stuff out of here.
Yeah, and it was that moment when I kind of, called the press officer of Milan, and I was asking like, and that guy is talking about the retiring and stuff.
No.
He's crazy. Yeah.
I would also like to mention Nicola Melli. Actually, he didn't contribute much in the scoring department. He had other tasks in this game, but he brings so much intelligence to the team. What a treasure it is that players like Nicola Melli come back from the NBA to play in Europe again, and you can see him now in Milan because he was a part of Milan team. I want to say like 7 years ago. He was a role player. He seemed like nothing special at all. Then he had his breakthrough years in Bamberg, became an elite player in Fenerbahce, and now he is one of the leaders, I would say, in this Ettore Messina's team. The only question for me about Milan is, of course, now they're without Malcolm Delaney. When he comes back from injury, the rotation changes. He's a very important player. However, Messina won this game with a quite narrow rotation. Some players played like 4 or 5 minutes. And I'm still not sure whether Jerian Grant and Troy Daniels are EuroLeague material.
I think it's too early to talk about Troy Daniels because he had that injury. And
okay, so he's coming back, but I mean, his decision making when he was on the court, he still see the NBA player in him.
Obviously, yeah.
And he still needs to learn about the EuroLeague. Jerian Grant, he played 3 minutes. I'm not really sure what he brings to this team.
Yeah, that's the main challenge for Jerian Grant to prove if he belongs in EuroLeague basketball. The thing about Troy Daniels, I think, is a bit different again. Maybe it's too early. And the feedback I've got about him, the way he's stepping up, the way he's trying to come back, the effort he gives on the court and the practices and stuff like that, Milan is very happy about him. They're very optimistic. And that's even, that's even better for Milan. They're already 7-1. They're leading the EuroLeague at the moment. And they have so much potential. I mean, with Troy Daniels, with Jerian Grant, if not him, maybe another player will join the team.
It's not Emmanuel Moody situation. They can afford to wait for Troy Daniels to get better.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt the team. I do know that he's talented enough, for sure, because I saw him in Phoenix and Memphis. He was playing good basketball. I know that the talent is there, but sometimes even talented players do not fit the European system. This is my question. And I hope it turns out to be good for Troy Daniels, but so far I'm still having some questions about these players. And of course, Ettore Messina during this long season needs full rotation because, as you said, it's a veteran team. Now they have a good start, but 34 games, then you go to playoffs, then you want to be in the Final Four. So in order to be fresh and fit, you need full rotation, and you need these role players to step up at some point in the season.
Anyway, to wrap it up, a great feeling to be at Mediolanum Forum. If it was like a cinema atmosphere before, now it's like La Scala, with all the fans shouting, with all that crowd being so hot, with all these emotional players, because they're not just regular players, they're not just regular personalities, but these guys like Dino Mitoglou also, he gives extra energy. Gianpaolo Ricci, he's my favorite player. 4 years, he's 30-year-old rook, and 4 years ago he was still playing in second Italian division, and his journey was amazing. So this team is very well built. Although they played 6 games at home, so it helped a lot also.
Now they will miss the atmosphere in Mediolanum because looking at the schedule, 5 of their next 6 games will be away.
That's another interesting challenge, to check.
And Messina said himself, he admitted.
Yeah.
So far we had home games. We showed that we can win at home. Now it's time for us to do the same on the road. So there are some difficult road games ahead. Fenerbahce, Unix, Zenit. And we'll see how they will face this challenge.
Yeah, another team which is facing challenges is CSKA Moscow. They has now lost 5 games in a row, VTB League games included, and that's the longest losing streak since the season 2000-2001. And of course, it's that time of the year when Andrei Vatutin is getting all those questions about the coach, about the team and stuff like that. I actually read a good interview. It was on a Match TV website. It was a good interview for the fans because the journalist was so aggressive. Because all these questions were like, okay, team is not performing, so maybe it's time to fire the coach. Okay, Kenneth Farid is not performing, so he's bad. CSKA is having budget problems or something that they're not bringing some players. There were a lot of, let's say, aggressive questions. Yeah. But the main thing, I don't know how it's for Russians. Maybe they're not used to their team losing 5 games in a row. But for us, especially after all these Saras years, we know that we can trust the process. And Dimitris Itoudis already showed in all these recent years that you have to trust the process, because in the end of the game, CSKA will be fighting for the EuroLeague title again. And I actually loved Vatutin's all his answers because he emphasized that 3 starting 5 lineup players were missing because of injuries: Grigonis, Milutinov, and Shengelia. Shengelia and Milutinov already playing. Grigonis maybe will play this week. It will be probably a game time decision. He also mentioned that losing, all these injured players also impact their rotations. So some players were fatigued. It was very hard to have a balanced load management. And he'll, of course, confirm that there are no concerns over Itoudis' future. He actually... He also got a question about Alexei Shved, that, Shved is not the same Shved he was in Khimki. And Vatutin actually said that he likes CSKA Shveds much more than Khimki's Shved. And I can totally agree with him because...
Shved airballed a free throw in Kazan.
Okay.
Playing against Unix.
Uh-huh.
I never saw Alexei Shved airball.
So he's broke
a free throw
right now, right?
No, I'm not sure. Maybe he had like butter fingers or something. You know what? I think that CSKA did not play bad against Fenerbahce. I just want to give a lot of credit to the winners of this game. I think Fenerbahce played an amazing game. The efficiency on offense, it was top level. 55% 3-point shooting, 57% 2-pointers. They were going to the free throw line a lot.
And before that game, they were shooting threes only by 32%. So that's a radical change.
They played a great game, a complete game. In the first quarter, it was all about Devin Booker. He was dominating.
He scored like 10 points in a row.
He scored first 10 points for Fenerbahce and had an explosive dunk, as he usually does. Then Mariel Shayok had the ball in his hands and made some good shots. It was a good game for him. Marko Guduric contributed. Then you were thinking like, Nando De Colo is very passive in this game. But just wait for the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter comes, Nando De Colo does his thing. He actually killed CSKA with his 2 3-pointers in the fourth quarter in the last minute. So it was a complete game. Jan Vesely had 17 points. He was also winning his battles against Tornike Shengelia. So I don't want to talk about some crisis in Moscow. I just want to talk that Fenerbahce played as a Final Four level team, an elite team, a great performance for everybody, and Sasha Djordjevic should be happy and he should be proud. This team was not broken by these devastating losses in the last seconds that they suffered, one after another. They bounced back and played a great game here in Megasport Arena. CSKA, for some moments in the game, they were ahead. It seemed like they had a control of the game. Will Clyburn was again on his LeBron James mode with 26 points. It's just that the opponents were better. It's not like CSKA played bad basketball. It's just that Fenerbahce was better. That's my opinion.
Yeah, they were super efficient shooting the basket. For example, that Jan Vesely made that Aurelius Žukauskas fadeaway 3 in the fourth quarter, I guess. It was a very important shot. And the most important thing was that Nando De Colo got the ball in the final possessions of the game. That was the thing which I was missing, I think, which we were missing, talking about Fenerbahce struggles in the end of the games. And I remember watching the game, and Fener being up by 3 with 1 minute and 40 seconds to play, and I was like, not again. I just hope that Fener won't ruin this game again. And De Colo got the ball in 2 possessions. Okay, once it was like his three-pointer came after good ball movement, which started with Marko Guduric, I think.
But he still needed to make the pump fake.
Yeah, he made a great fake with like 4 seconds left until the end of the possession. And before also he had one-on-one play against some big of CSKA, I don't actually remember, but he made 2 great three-pointers to kill CSKA. So I'm super happy for Fenerbahce finally getting out of this slump in the end of the games.
Nando De Colo only played less than 23 minutes. He played 22 minutes and some seconds. And yes, there was a feeling that he doesn't have the ball in his hands enough. Although Marko Guduric was great, Pierre Henry was controlling the tempo. But you were thinking, come on, De Colo is the best creator. He's the guy. And he just took care of business. Ended up with 18 points and 22 index rating. So these are his last season's numbers. I hope that this win will be like a turning point for Fenerbahce. They should go up after this one. They should start feeling better. They proved that they can play very beautiful basketball, actually. And their defense was okay. The only problem was the rebounds. I think offensive rebounds kept CSKA in the game. It's not a surprise, though. We know that CSKA is the best team. Talking about second chances, especially when they have healthy Milutinov, they're unstoppable. They're constantly getting like 18 or 20 offensive rebounds, and they got 18 in this game. In the first half, it was like the main thing. In the second half, Fenerbahce got better, getting the rebounds, so it led to this victory, 91-82. Great game. It was a beautiful game to watch, actually.
Oh, yeah. It was a pleasure. It's a pleasure to watch Will Clyburn playing. And again, he was super efficient in scoring the basket. He scored like 26 points against. He made all these tough three-pointers. And it's crazy to watch this player who developed his shot so significantly. For example, in his first 2 seasons in Ulm, when he started his European career, he was making only 27% of three-pointers. In Holland, he made only 33. In Darussafaka, his first EuroLeague season, 29. And this year, he is making 39% of three-pointers. And these are not just, some easy spot-up shots. He's making very, very tough three-pointers. And just kudos, for that guy.
This is the thing about these great players, superstar players. When they are facing challenges like injuries, sometimes they come back even better. And Will Clyburn had 2 difficult injuries to deal with. And I believe that when he was recovering from those injuries, he didn't just focus on getting his muscles back in shape. He worked on his shot, he worked on his game, he crafted some moves, he got better at three-point shooting. It's amazing, really. He's the best small forward in the league for a reason. However, in these moments, you start thinking about CSKA and their guards. Ife Lundberg, not consistent. Alexis Shved, sometimes he takes a day off. Then you become too dependent on Daniel Hackett, who is a veteran, but he has to play more than 30 minutes in these circumstances. You can see why they are looking for a point guard in the market. I don't know if they are still looking.
Yeah,
they are. So you can see why. Sometimes you think that, they probably don't even need one. In games like this, then you see De Colo playing for Fenerbahce, and you think like CSKA needs someone like this. In the past, they had Sergio Rodriguez, De Colo, Higgins. They had Teodosic. They always had leading guards in Europe, elite players. And now they're lacking, I think.
Yeah, I think that except from all these problems which were mentioned also by Vatutin, it seems like all these teams like CSKA, like FS, they're still kind of playing on a lower gear. And I tried to find some common things during the season why they are struggling, and there are some similarities in some stats. For example, what I found interesting that CSKA has the best offensive rating in the EuroLeague, but they have the worst defensive rating in the EuroLeague. So that's a radical change. They allow 60% two-pointers and 38, which is worst in the EuroLeague, and they allow 38 percent of 3-pointers, 15th worst in the EuroLeague. I also checked that Anadolu Efes, before winning against Žalgiris, they also shared one of the worst defensive ratings. I checked what I noticed that some of these teams, especially Efes, were killed in transition defense, and I can clearly see that, for example, CSKA allows 11.9 points per game in transition, which is the second worst, and Anadolu Efes 12.6 points per game, which is the worst. And you can compare it with Bayern Munich, 6 points per game in transition. So, there are
details.
There are some logical reasons why they're losing, but at the same time, it seems like all these players are kind of understanding that it's very early in the regular season. But again, I try to talk about Saras, because I kind of try to say that, hey, listen, I know you're always hard with your players. He mentioned that they had a European record 90 games last season, which is like total NBA schedule. And he hates that in NBA they're just throwing off some games, and he wants his team to be focused on every game. But when you have 90 games per season, it's so hard to keep your team consistent mentally. So maybe actually you can throw some games, at least not clearly.
On purpose.
Yeah, but it's normal that sometimes your players are not focused. And he said that he understands that watching other teams, but at the same time, especially talking about FS, he told that it's very risky actually. And the way FS turned around the season last year, it's kind of a miracle, what happened, and it's not easy to repeat. Just to switch the button and to kill everybody in the second part of the season. It doesn't happen very often.
I still wanted to talk a little bit about Kenneth Farid. I believe that with Milutinov coming back, it's not going to work out for Kenneth Farid in Moscow. I don't see how it could. But there is a good thing about Kenneth Farid coming to CSKA, because from what I'm seeing, Joel Bolomboy now he knows that there is a guy who can take his minutes away, and he started playing better since the day Kenneth Farid arrived. Joel Bolomboy started playing harder, fighting for the rebounds like crazy, playing his part, mainly setting screens on the offense and trying to get these offensive rebounds. And his numbers since Farid arrived, and of course Milutinov injury had to do a lot with this, are great. And if Kenneth Farid doesn't contribute himself, maybe he was like a moral boost for Joel Bolomboy to get better, because always when you have a role on a team and somebody arrives and he's in your position, he might take away your minutes. You have to step up, and this is what Joel Bolomboy is doing. And Farid, I'm not sure. Once again, you see him making a silly foul after a bonus. Yes, 4 offensive rebounds. The energy is there. The motivation is there.
He just cannot control it seems like.
And now with Milutinov and Shingeli is also back, you still have Voigtman. Bolomboy seems in a good shape.
He was on a 2-month contract, so I believe that he won't be extended.
Contract?
Yeah, it was only a 2-month contract.
Okay, it was.
Maybe this
was announced till the end of the season.
Maybe it's until the end of the season, but maybe there's an option to break the contract after 2 months.
If everyone's healthy, I actually don't see a place for him in this team, and unless he has a breakthrough and starts playing a lot better. You have VTB League games, you have EuroLeague games, you can distribute the minutes between those, but at this point, I do believe that Kenneth Farid could be somewhere else by the new year.
Indeed. Yeah. And to follow up with another Russian team, let's open up about some things. Which it's time to open up about some things. All these halftime speeches and some EuroLeague TV journalists asking the questions, and you became very famous on Twitter with your Ergin Ataman's impersonation, and I believe that Gytis and all of the fans are waiting for another big statement, big halftime speech or whatever. And I would like to hear how our colleagues from Russia making all those questions.
You mean the interviews?
Yeah.
First of all, I don't get it. How do you
Me
not
neither.
find someone who speaks fluent English and can ask a few questions in Moscow, for example? If you don't have a journalist, I don't know, get Will Clyburn's friend or wife or someone, because it's embarrassing, to be honest. It should be embarrassing. You have an elite coach who's waiting for a question, and the coach obviously knows that this is not going to go well. And then something
The home team coach,
like
of
this
course.
comes out. Coach, in first half you had problem, but now 2 points game. What you think second half could do? What is this? I mean, and there are always problems in other places. In Vitoria, for example, sometimes in Italy.
In Gran Canaria, I remember it was
Oh,
awful.
Gran Canaria was legendary. And I just don't get it. Why? Is it so hard to find someone? If it is, then just give him a piece of paper with
Just to
the
read the
precise
question.
words, and he just has to read it. And of course, the coach gets annoyed because he's like in the game mood. He's willing to do this because he has to do this. It's like part of his duty to give the interview for television. He doesn't want to offend the guy, but if you cannot make a question.
And especially
I mean-
these home team coaches, they know who are they dealing with. And they usually try to be very polite, but even Ettore Messina was pretty mad last time he was asked. He was not even asked the
For
question.
example, what kind of question is this? What do you generally think about the quality of the game? What is he supposed to say? What he thinks about the quality of the game? He wants to win a basketball game. I don't get it, man.
Okay, I'm the
Something-
last one who should criticize somebody on their English skills, but it's still funny.
Something needs to be done. It's not only about English skills, it's just about some common sense. Really.
And actually, it's not
And
the
EuroLeague-
fault of these interviewees. I mean,
And
it's the
EuroLeague
fault of the
should care about,
producers.
I mean,
yeah,
EuroLeague should care about the quality of the broadcast.
yeah.
So if something is bad, you need to give a notice. Say, look, guys, I mean, it's okay. It's a great broadcast. The camera crew is doing a great job, but come on, what's up with these interviews? Find
Yeah.
someone better.
And all these voices are there for years, actually.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine that you cannot find
And
anything better in Moscow, for
I have to
example.
give a shout out because there are some great people doing these interviews in Germany, for example, in Greece. I don't know these people, but sometimes you think, yeah, it's great. In Madrid, for example, they have I believe he sounds American, someone who really speaks great and has confidence, and he talks with Pablo Lasso, and it looks
It's
very,
not George
very
Lauskas,
natural.
right?
No.
Okay.
So somebody else doing this in-game and post-game
Yeah, that's how it should
interviews.
be.
So there are good people doing a really good job, but in some places you just raise your eyebrows and you're thinking, why is he there? I mean, come on.
And that's the good point. I mean, it's not their fault. EuroLeague should take care of it. I mean,
Sure,
if they're
yeah.
interested.
100%.
And it's sometimes like when you think in general that EuroLeague should take care more of some media things, of some teams being more available, because we actually find a really hard time of reaching out to some of the teams. And I don't get it actually, because we would help them to be more popular around the Europe. We would talk about all these teams more, to interview all these players. It would help all the EuroLeague product, but sometimes I think that even more than a half of these EuroLeague teams are so close, they're not giving any interview availabilities and stuff. And EuroLeague should be like taking care of all these things, saying that, guys, you cannot be like that. We are not getting the money like football does. I understand that it's hard to reach out to Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, but this is different.
It's hard, but it's not impossible.
Mm.
Of course, it's going to be like, I don't know, a template interview where you know what he's going to say, but you can get it. In mix zone and in media zone, it's possible. I'm not dealing with these interviews like you, for example. I'm just a commentator. You're a journalist. But I'm hearing from a lot of people that there is no like order how it works in EuroLeague. How do you have to communicate? To whom you have to send an email to get an interview, or to just, I don't know, agree on some meeting. So these are things that should be solved if you are trying to be a serious league, or you're, I don't know.
If you're a high holder, it's easier, but it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah,
Basketball is not so big.
If you are like trying to prove to everybody that you're the second best league in the world in the game of basketball, it's not just about what happens on the court. It's about everything. Every detail matters.
It's
And you have to
entertainment.
take care of every single thing. And maybe when Jordi Bertomeu is out, things start going different way. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see, because it all starts from the head. So, Ritis, what do you think about Zenit winning against EuroLeague champions?
Well, first half, yes. Okay, sorry.
First half was good.
Sorry, maybe
It was
now-
really good. Yeah, it was really good first half for Zenit.
Maybe now I'm getting disrespectful. Yeah, well, I have to say now, first of all, that my hero of the week is actually Mindaugas Kuzminskas,
Me the same.
Lithuanian guy. We were questioning his abilities to play for Xavi Pascual. Here is a game where there are mismatches. Krunoslav Simon is guarding him, or some
Elijah Bryant especially.
Elijah Bryant. They are kind of undersized for this third position, and Mindaugas Kuzminskas has an advantage, but you still have to use your advantage. You have to be able to do that, and in this game, it was perfect. From Mindaugas Kuzminskas, everything he did, it was perfect. And you said he needs to play a lot of minutes to feel confident. I think he also needs his first few actions in the game to be good in order for him to be good in the whole game. And this is what happened here against Anadolu Efes. He was the best player of the game,
But
the MVP.
actually, the start of the game for him was complicated. He entered the court at something like a third or fourth minute of the game, and just to replace Ponitka because he had some blood somewhere, so he had to be subbed out. And the first few possessions for Kuzminskas, especially defensively, it was tough. And when he was benched, usually it finishes like Xavi Pascual is not bringing him on the court again. Sometimes it happened during the season, but this time his second stint on the court was much better. And I think that he scored 8 points in a row during that crucial run in the first half when Zenit made that double-digit lead against Efes, and he was great. He started to make all the threes. He created all the good situations from the low post. Yeah, he did some steals actually to run the transition, and it helped him to feel better. And he was really efficient in that game. So kudos for
Also,
Kuze.
another guy we're doubting him. I'm still doubting him. It's Frankham, but he had a great shooting night. He can shoot the ball. The questions are about his other abilities, playmaking, distributing, but he can shoot the ball. He made 4 3-pointers, 18 points in 18 minutes. Good performance. And talking about Anadolu Efes, again, we were saying that they beat Žalgiris. It should be good for their confidence. Next week, they're facing Zenit. They could go on a winning streak. They're not going on a winning streak. Vasilij Micic is far away from his best shape.
Everybody's far away from.
He looks out of shape. Some guys, in some moments, they look okay. But you're looking at Anadolu Efes and you're thinking, they're not a team right now.
Mhm.
They're like, they're not functioning as a team. I don't know why. We probably are not going to discuss again about Ataman.
Yeah.
But, I mean, come on. You're facing Zenit at home. Zenit is not a good offensive team. They have a very poor offensive rating, I believe. And they score 90 points against you.
Yeah, it was a very bad defensive presence. Okay, Zenit, they have the 11th best offensive rating.
So after this game?
Yeah, after this game, before this game, they were 13th worst. So that's mediocre offense. And it's natural because they're playing without their point guard.
Yeah.
And I'm actually amazed how well they're still keeping in the standings with 5 and 3. Because you cannot imagine, winning team or playoff team with Jordan Lloyd as a point guard. And he's a great shooting guard. He's a great scorer, but he's playing as your starting point guard for a reason. Okay, Frankham stepped up, but at the same time, he's very inconsistent. And that's the reason why Zenit was on the market. I'm not sure if they're still on the market, because Xavi Pascual, after that win, he mentioned that they're kind of in the last part of Shabazz Napier recovery. But the information I've heard was that Zenit are on the market for a point guard, and we'll see how will it finish up. By the way, Xavi Pascual against Ataman 11-1 in head-to-heads, incredible record.
Wow. So Ataman only beat him once.
Yeah,
And it was Anadolu Efes versus Zenit.
I will have to check right now, but it's the general, head-to-head from EuroLeague.
So Barca days.
Probably something like that. Or I will check it pretty soon. No worries.
No problem. No problem.
You can.
Wow, that's a great record, really.
Yeah, that's a dominant record, and I believe that Ataman is quite pissed about it because he's the guy who takes notice at all these things. Really, you can believe me.
I believe you. I believe you. Yeah, while you're at it, probably we should mention some other games that happened. I was very impressed about Crvena Zvezda. 81-48.
A quick
one.
Ataman won against Zenit once in 2019, November 14.
So it was FS against Zenit?
Yeah, it was FS against Zenit. Oh no, that's wrong because John Plaza was the coach. So
you have to go
deeper. Panathinaikos times or something like that. Yeah.
Whatever. So Zvezda against Panathinaikos. 81-48. Pau was just locked. They couldn't do anything again. And now I can definitely say that this game they had against FS, where everything was clicking, it was just a coincidence. They are not good. They're just slightly better than Žalgiris, but they are not good at all.
I'm waiting for the next week's game because Pau is coming to Kaunas, so maybe it's the first chance to win something for Žalgiris.
And once again, Zvezda, great performance from Nate Walters. Ognjen Kuzmic, very aggressive on the boards, getting their third victory. Just being competitive. It's what it's all about for Zvezda. Being competitive every single night. They had some slumps, I would say, recently. They had 4 losses in a row, and this game against Pau was the one where they showed that there are no problems. They are still the same team. They're still supported by their passionate fans. So 81-48.
48 points.
Only Unix had worse against Fener this season.
Yeah, they allowed Fenerbahce 61. They kept Maccabi at 63. Žalgiris 61. Incredible defense. Monaco 70 points. And we were discussing with Saras, what's the way of winning for low budget teams? Because I asked him, he kind of criticized Žalgiris coming from this philosophy, this style of working, probably both as the head coach and, let's say, building the roster, that they went so radical with American Wave, with Martin Schiller project. So he was criticizing, actually. Let's say he was surprised why Žalgiris changed that direction. And I asked him that, so maybe, Zdovc now is the head coach of Žalgiris. Maybe Žalgiris is again, looking that way. But he mentioned that when I asked him about building the roster, that you were known as a coach who was hiring unproven players, EuroLeague rookies and stuff like that, the hungry players. And I asked him if that's the way for the low-budget team to expect something in the EuroLeague. He actually wasn't so sure because he told that he was signing all these players just because Žalgiris had a limited budget and they couldn't afford, let's say, experienced EuroLeague guys. So if Žalgiris had a bigger budget, maybe his idea would be a little bit different. But when I think about team like Zvezda, in order to be competitive in the EuroLeague, when I remember also Panathinaikos game against Anadolu Efes, I think that you will always have a chance in the EuroLeague when you will be super physical, super intense. Then you will have a roster, pretty mobile roster, which could really defend all the positions, the switch-in defense. When you will be really hard-working, understanding the value of every possession, you will always have a chance in the EuroLeague, no matter what. And I think Zvezda proved it, Žalgiris proved it in previous years, even Panathinaikos against Efes. I mean, it sounds easy, but it's very hard to demand.
I would add another thing. I would say that, of course, when you're building a team with a limited budget, you're going through positions and you're thinking where we can save some money, where should we spend and invest more. You can never save money or gamble on a point guard position. You can save some money signing a power forward who's not very skilled or very talented. He can be a defensive type of player. You can gamble maybe with your small forward or your second center who's going to play limited minutes. You can never do that with a point guard. So Crvena Zvezda signing someone like Nate Walters, who is a trustworthy player. Of course, his price is lower because of his injuries, but you know what you're going to get. And if you would build a team like, okay, we sign a good center, we go for a power forward that we really want, the coach wants this shooting guard, this scorer, and then you end up saving money on a point guard and getting some budget option, it's never going to work. It always has to start from a good point guard. And, Saras and Žalgiris, what point guards he had? Kevin Pangos, Nate Walters himself, Vasilija Micic, Leo Westerman as a backup, always playing solid minutes. They were always strong in this position. They missed out on some players maybe in the market, but they were always finding solutions in the point guard position. So this is another thing I would add to your idea.
The same it was for Maccabi. They were losing all those years because I think that they didn't have a great point guard. Okay, they had some scorers, like, for example, Scott Wilbekin, but next to him, you have to have something solid. And I think that Keenan Evans is still getting better. He's still going there. But the way he's playing defense, the way he stepped up on offensive end in the previous games, gives us a hope that maybe he can be that guy who could contribute.
You know what about Maccabi? I would say Keenan Evans to me doesn't look like a floor general either. However, they solve these things with point forwards, with James Nunnally and Derek Williams. James Nunnally is a point forward in this team. What he's doing, he's a creator. He's playing post-ups. He's having the ball in his hands a lot. So the term itself, point guard, I mean, it's kind of old. Mm-hmm. You should say a creator. It can be someone, a playmaker, even from the third position or from the second. But it still has to be someone who controls the team and gives the balance to the team. So in Maccabi's case, I would say it's the glue guy, James Nunnally, at the moment, that is actually making everything work. Yes, Keenan Evans is getting better, of course, but I don't think that he's a floor general type of point guard. He is still a sort of a combo guard, in my opinion. Okay, yeah, so that's about Zvezda, about low-budget teams.
Baskonia.
Yeah, we should mention some other games.
If we believe in teams like FS and CSKA, we don't have a lot of belief in Baskonia.
No, not at all. I was saying that this game against Maccabi, it will be very important. I was actually guessing it will determine Duško Ivanović's future. But as we can see, he's still there. He was coaching this weekend. They finally got a win with Tadas Sedekerski's great performance. But in EuroLeague against Maccabi, they were hopeless. Again, it has to be said, they were hopeless. There was nothing. 87-69. Baskonia was playing at home. Maccabi was doing whatever they want. For Derek Williams, it was like a picnic, a field trip. He was having fun in this game.
Last week we were talking about moves needed by Baskonia. They actually made a move. They signed Lamar Peters, another guard, and this move, I tried to make a research, and this move was based on inconsistent game of Jason Granger and Wade Baldwin's unavailability to play as a point guard in Duško's system. So Duško believes that Lamar Peters will be better suited for his game because he's a better defender. Maybe he can score from the beyond the arc. Last season he played for Bursaspor. He was averaging 17 points per game in EuroCup, but he played only 3 EuroCup games. In Turkish league, it was much more difficult for him. 10 points per game, 6.4 assists. But only 27% of three-point shooting, attempting more than almost 7 threes per game. So it will be adjustment for him, but that's another case of how long this cooperation between Baldwin will be happening. Because
if they're signing a new player for Duško, it means they're trusting him to continue.
Probably. And the thing is that Baldwin against Unicaja, they won that game. Baldwin played only 9 minutes. So... Some of them won't stay until Christmas probably over there, and probably it's the matter of time because I cannot see Baldwin being happy in that situation.
Another thing is centers, of course. Maccabi's centers outplayed whole Baskonia's front line. Ante Žižić, 16 points, Jalen Reynolds, 16 points, dominating the boards, getting offensive rebounds. The difference of quality is amazing, actually. I don't know about the budgets. Does Maccabi have a much bigger budget than Baskonia?
I think it's quite the same because Baskonia was one of the lowest budget teams in Spain in terms of the EuroLeague.
Yeah. Of course, Barca and Real
There's
have more
always
money,
something
but
around 14 millions or less. And they were not paying solid money, but they were kind of including huge buyouts, so they were getting money from that. But all these players some of them were paid good, but no, Baskonia cannot afford, signing amazing players.
it's not like Maccabi are signing super duper stars.
But at least they're getting better because now they have fans back and they have a lot of income from that.
It's just the difference when you see Maccabi and you trust Sfairopoulos and you know they might have some slumps, they will have some bad games, but you're just trusting him and you're seeing Baskonia with Duško. I have no belief in this team, to be honest. And I'm really surprised that the coach still keeps his position, because in the past I saw Baskonia firing coaches left and right. Pedro Martinez is playing some quality basketball, but there's a conflict somewhere in the club and bam, Pedro Martinez is fired. And they had Perasovic, they fired him. They had, I don't even remember some names, but they were firing coaches after something goes wrong immediately. Now with Duško Ivanović, for some reason, they're just staying with him, trusting him, and allowing him to lose 4 games in a row with 20-point deficits. So it's kind of strange to me.
I'm kind of tired of talking about Baskonia. Every podcast, we are not, coach hunters or something like that. But
sometimes you just raise questions.
Yeah.
And that's it. I wanted to mention again Asvel and their another win against Unix. And this time Chris Jones was the man. 85-82. Once again, they're proving they can play these close games, even though they're like a new team, a new group of guys, but they already seem like they were playing together for at least 3 or 4 years. And Chris Jones just really showed his quality in this game. They outplayed a really talented Unix team with Mario Hazonia, who was having an amazing night, shooting 27 points.
He started the game very bad. I remember because I have him on my fantasy, I guess, and he was like -3 or something in the first half.
But it was in the end his best game of the season so far.
And
still he was overshadowed by this little guy, Chris Jones.
And it seems like Villeurbanne has the best backcourt in the EuroLeague so far. What is interesting, you can find it on our Basket News Instagram page, that Jones and Okobo have combined for 248 points in the EuroLeague season, which is 45% of the points scored by Asvel. And it's crazy.
If you add the assists they are making, that's also contribution directly to scoring.
It would be something like 75% of Asvel points.
Also in this game, David Lighty stepped up. He played great. He scored 19 points and played big minutes. But yeah, Okobo and Jones, wow. And what else from last week? I would just say that Real Madrid and Bayern Munich was a great fight. I couldn't see the game live, though. I just watched the highlights, but you could see Bayern Munich doing their thing once again, coming back to the game from a double-digit deficit, making it tough on Real Madrid. They barely won. They escaped, I would say. And Gershon Yabusele was the MVP.
Yeah, Monaco lost against Olympiacos. Nothing unexpected, but at the same time, what was unexpected, that they lost the French League game against Bourg-en-Bresse by 25 points. Can you imagine? It's something wrong with them. I mean, it seems like they're still looking for that balance in the French League and the EuroLeague, because it's not the first time they lost the game. And of course, Zvezdan is using whole different rotations all the time. Maybe that makes some players kind of uncomfortable, the way they're always rotating. But
they have too many players.
That was the idea.
It may sound, but it may sound wrong. But sometimes you may have too many players, and it's not good for the balance of the team.
It's good to keep them fresh, but at the same time, it's hard to be consistent when you're changing all rotations all the time.
It's hard to keep them happy.
Yeah.
You're not Real Madrid, where the players, they're hungry for basketball, but at the same time, they already proven everything in the game of basketball. They're experienced veterans that they can accept playing one game and sitting one game. Here in Monaco, you have players that They want the ball. They want to play. They just have, in my opinion, too many players. I'm not sure why they made some of these signings. As we said, Dwayne Bacon, for example. I'm not questioning whether he's a good basketball player or not, but why was he brought to this team? And at the moment, we're seeing that maybe it's not working for them with this whole idea of having 12 or even 14 good players on the roster. Not necessarily good guys, good players.
Enough is enough. That shit won't happen again, Mike James tweeted. Probably after that game. I don't know. Maybe it was not related to that game.
Maybe he was just...
Or it was.
Playing Call of Duty and
probably
something happened.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on with... Okay, we had our hero of the week, Mindaugas Kuzminskas. Shout out to Kuze. But now we have to present our zero of the week. So who's yours?
Zero of the week. For me, it will be Paulius Motiejūnas.
Okay.
I wanted to mention a single player, for example, Ulanovas or someone like this, but no. When I hear Žalgiris coach, after losing to Alba Berlin, saying that today we saw how a modern team looks like, they are just too good for us. How do you get from what you had to being in a position where Alba is too good for you?
At home, my friend.
How can you make so many bad decisions one after another that now you're playing not against an elite team? When you lose against an elite team, you can say they have this big budget, they have these great players. You lose to Alba Berlin.
They are mediocre, not in the EuroLeague.
As far as I know, Alba Berlin's budget is lower than Žalgiris.
Oh yes. And they are only free in German championship.
Now the coach is here saying, well, they're a modern EuroLeague team. They're just too good for us. So what's wrong with this team? How do you build a team like this that gets to being too weak to face Alba Berlin? Alba Berlin won this game with Israel Gonzalez taking 0 timeouts.
Like
0.
Chuck Daly, 1992 Dream Team.
And I don't know this, but I can only speculate that maybe Israel Gonzalez was thinking like, this Žalgiris team, they're so dead. If I take a timeout, they will rest for a minute. Nah, I don't want to see that happening. Let them suffer. Let them die on this court. Jesus Christ. I mean, Paulius Motiejūnas, I'm sorry what he did in the last summer and the signings he made and everything, the situation with Coach Schiller. Now Zdovc is there. I feel sorry for that man. I wanted to give him a hug during this television interview. I felt really sorry for him. Jesus Christ.
And they are suffering. 2 days later, they lose the game against their main rival, FIBA Champions League team, Rytas. They made a comeback in the end of the game. They lost by 5, I guess, if not,
8.
Or something like that, yeah. But before the halftime, Rytas were up by 24. They were dominating the game, and actually Žalgiris didn't even deserve that late comeback, which was influenced by Lukas Lekavičius, because Rytas just killed them, and Žalgiris were hopeless. It was a tragedy, and the worst thing is that it's hard to see any light in the end of the tunnel. I mean, what you should rely on? Ty Webster, he couldn't play one-on-one. He couldn't beat one-on-one Marko Tej, who was fired the next day. Okay, Zoran Dragic, he was good. He was decent. I mean, he was doing his job. Lukas Lekavičius, he played amazing game. I said it before Moody was fired, but I said that it's that time of his career that Lekavičius can make another great contract, because Moody was not performing well, and it seems like only Lekavičius is performing right now. And what was strange, that it seemed like I saw only 3 players fighting, and it was Lekavičius, it was former Rytas player Marek Blažević, who was sincerely angry about the outcome of the game after 2 quarters, and it was Zoran Dragic, the newcomer of the team. It doesn't sound good, right? When we're talking about all these 3 players fighting for their pride against their rivals.
There wasn't a lot of fight against Alba as well.
Yeah, and having their asses beaten up by everybody. For example, against Alba, they survived only because Komadži was on the court. He was attacked. He was terrible, and that helped Žalgiris to stay, let's say, a bit closer. And however than that, it was dominating performance by Alba.
Third, fourth, I mean, especially fourth quarter, you don't see any idea how Žalgiris should score the basketball. They're just suffering. They don't have anyone who can play one-on-one. They don't have any chemistry. You just give the ball. They're 6 seconds left on the clock, and at this point you give the ball to Lekavicius. He's going to play a pick and roll, and maybe he will make a floater or something like that. The same goes with Strelnieks. You give him the ball with 5 seconds left, and you're hoping maybe he will make his one-legged three-point shot or a pick and roll and get a jump shot in some sort of position. Then you see Alba Berlin. Tuk, 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 the ball is moving. Look, Sigma is there. He's facing the basket, seeing everybody, scanning the floor. Everybody knows their roles. Tamir Blat steps up, starts doing these Harlem Globetrotter passes. Everyone's so confident, so happy. They're playing basketball. Israel Gonzalez is he's just a spectator. He's not taking a single time out. Wow, man. I mean, and last season we had Khimki in the EuroLeague, right? Everyone was beating them.
And they were
crashing
hopeless, really.
They were hopeless. But they were a team in a financial crisis. Players were not getting salaries. Some players were leaving during the season. In the beginning of the season, they were facing COVID. They had like 6 or 7 healthy bodies. You could understand why they are where they are. They were losing, players not getting their money. They're not happy. There's no morale in this team. With Žalgiris, they're getting paid. It's just that they build a roster that is not suitable for modern-day EuroLeague. And this goes to the person who's the decision maker.
Yeah, and I felt bad listening Zdovc having all these, I would say, not stupid explanations, but sad explanations. For example, he was saying that maybe some players didn't take Ritas seriously because, they kind of used to giving all their effort on the EuroLeague and taking rest in LKL, which is bullshit because half of Žalgiris roster is full of veterans who know the importance of that game. And again, when you start the season 0-7, there's no room to underestimate anybody. Then he was asked about who has to be done, let's say, to change the situation. And he started talking about and emphasizing his idea about signing a big man. At first signing the big man who could shoot from the outside, who could be great on the low post, which is funny because usually all these players are getting paid by 1 million euros or something like that because the market is very dry, especially for the teams like Žalgiris. But at the same time, I don't really believe that the player in the paint would be a game changer for the Žalgiris. So I feel bad for Zdovc. He's not he's not that guy who is blamed for everything.
He's a hostage.
He's kind of hostage.
Situation.
But at the same time, he's not one to blame that he's not the right coach for this team because, okay, I understand Paulius' point that going from Schiller, you wanted somebody who could bring some discipline, who could be strict, and if that American project wasn't successful, let's get back to their roots, getting back to the old European kind of style of basketball. But okay, if you're bringing strict coach, you cannot sign the defensive-minded coach for the offensive. I couldn't say that this is offensive-oriented team. This team is hopeless in defense, so defensive-minded coach is not the right one for this team. Maybe let's try somebody with some offensive ideas to try to do something with this offensive potential because maybe there is more offensive potential for this team. I even think that maybe Rimas Kurtinaitis would be more suitable for this team than actually Juras Zdovc because they are disciplined, but they are way different. It's, of course, not an answer for Žalgiris. Žalgiris is in a terrible situation, but again, this move with Juras Zdovc, with all these signings.
So you agree about the zero of the week, or you?
My zero of the week was just Žalgiris
in
general. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And I know that Žalgiris front office will be angry again on media, escalating it, but you cannot act like it's nothing is going on. I mean, they are on the worst start in the EuroLeague in their history. They suffered the worst defeat against their rivals at their home court in Žalgirio Arena. They were terrible, actually. They made all these changes, but the progress is not there. There was a meeting with the fans, ultras of Žalgiris before the end of the game. They came into the tunnel to talk with the players and showed their support. It it was nice. For example, in Europe, it kind of spread out, and I saw some former Žalgiris people, even Coach Plaza tweeted about it. Hanno Motola, for example, tweeted about it. Some Greek journalists tweeted about it, that saying, "Oh, this is a great example because usually in Greece or every other country, all these players will be trashed by their own fans and something." The support was nice, but the idea was nice, but the form was questionable because it was kind of, "Hey, what's going on? Oh, we don't know. We try, but something is not going on. Oh, okay, green and white. Again, I will be trashed because of this, but the idea was great, but the form was like, what is all about?"
They're going to Madrid this week.
Don't even
So
tell
now
me.
after this conversation with the fans, they will be like on fire. You will see Mantas Kalnietis just attacking Tavares and all this stuff. They will be playing great basketball, aggressive, and it's going to end up 90-60 to Madrid.
I know, maybe they should appoint Kalnietis as their head coach, because next season you cannot expect things from Kalnietis. He might be a great coach, so maybe let's start this project right now. I mean, it would make more sense, actually.
I don't even care about this season anymore for Žalgiris. Just I'm hoping that next year someone with competence will be making decisions about the roster, hiring a new coach, and building a team from scratch. They will be changing like 8 players, I believe, and I just hope it will be better. This season, I have no expectations at all.
You know, what's the worst part? That previously, it's not the first time Žalgiris is having a really, really bad season. But before, it was like, okay, the regular season finishes at January, February. Then there's a top 16. Žalgiris don't play in the EuroLeague anymore. They play in the LKL. They win all the titles. And everything is, let's say, okay. Now we will have to suffer it until the middle
games.
of
There
April.
are 26 games. Alba Berlin was too much for them, but there are still 26 games left to play with other teams.
If Alba Berlin is too much for you, you're in trouble, my friend. Really. And I just hope, I really sincerely hope that we're too early with all these, too early judging them, because when all the players will be back in shape with all these signings,
what are you going to do? Win
they
6
will
games?
They will be at least 10th win
10 wins?
game. Yeah.
10 wins?
I just hope
You
hope
hope,
that
but
we're
you-
missing something.
You hope, but you
I don't believe. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
I'm hoping like a, let's say, fan of Žalgiris, of Lithuanian basketball.
10, that would be amazing. 10, wow. What are we talking about?
Yeah, I'm a big
Just
dreamer.
let's get the first one sometime
At
soon.
least against Panathinaikos next week.
Well, we were hoping that it will be against
Of
Alba
course.
Berlin, but Alba Berlin is just too modern and too good. So, I don't know. Okay, it's
Okay.
enough.
Again, too much stuff about Žalgiris. In the end, top 3 atmospheres. The last time we made a ranking of your top 3 teams to cover on the broadcast.
Yeah.
Now I will make my own top 3 EuroLeague atmospheres. And for my top 3, again, there's no order, but I took Greece, and it's Athens and Piraeus included, because these 2 arenas have a very special
So
feeling.
you don't want to offend anybody.
No, I want
Right? Because if
I
you would
want
say,
to-
Oaxaca is the best.
If I will say that Oaxaca is the best, I won't be allowed to enter a Peace and Friendship Stadium anymore. There's not a lot of peace over there, actually, but that atmosphere is amazing, because it's built like a stadium, and the basketball arena and the media seatings are like in the middle of it, and especially when it's full. I remember I was visiting Piraeus in quarterfinals 3 years ago, and it was a really interesting playoff matchup between Žalgiris and Olympiacos. There were many fans and stuff like that. I felt really, let's say, uncomfortable, because
scared.
it's like we're gladiators in the middle of the court, and all these fans are kind of cursing, killing Saras. He enters the, let's say, arena, his bench before the game, 5 minutes before the game. All these fans are singing all the shit, all the worst words you can ever hear, and it's like, okay. And I remember it was a joke between Robertas Jevtokas, former sports director of Žalgiris, and Paulius Matiūnas was also there, and they were kind of joking that, it's because of you, because Jevtokas played for PAO. Of course, it's not for Saras. Oaxaca is amazing. I've been in many great games at Oaka, but my most strangest experience was when it was just a regular game between Žalgiris Panathinaikos, but the football team was playing badly back then. And it seems like that probably, I don't know anything about football, but probably the president of football team came in the arena and VIP seats to watch the game. And I'm sitting doing my job in media area, not paying any attention that half of my Greek colleagues are smoking during the game. They were kind of smoking the cigarette and, typing and stuff. Well, it's a normal day in Greece basketball. But
don't you get disturbed by people smoking in the arena?
I was at the beginning, but when it's your second or third game in Greece, you're kind of used to it, especially in Serbia.
I never smoked a cigarette in my life, so it really prevents me from going to any Serbian or Greek basketball games.
Or restaurant, because it's terrible.
Because I just cannot stay there if people are smoking inside.
After the halftime in Oaka, there is kind of cloud of smoke in Oaka, actually.
Let's be clear, not everyone's smoking cigarettes.
That's, of course, definitely. Weed is all over the place over there. You can smell it pretty correctly. Pretty easily. And I remember I was like, okay, doing my regular game time stuff. Then 20 or 30 ultras are running into the media's area, media tribune. But media tribune was like there, and there's a VIP zone. And all these ultras were kind of trying to attack, or at least to curse the president of football team. And I know Greece, I know their culture. I was not even thinking about trying to film what's going on, but my colleagues from Lithuania weren't kind of,
curious.
Yeah, they were too curious. They started to film it, and I saw all the other media members from Greece. That's okay. That's just another day in the office. My colleagues from Lithuania started filming it, and I saw the Panathinaikos media officer just don't do it. And one of the ultras noticed that somebody was filming. So they were almost about to run in the stands in the media seating and to take that phone and stuff like that. But my colleagues were fast enough, just to show that, okay, we're deleting it and stuff like that. So that was one of the more interesting experiences at Oaka. Something like that happened in Belgrade. I just hit the random ABA League game of Partizan against Zadar. It was before Žalgiris Zvezda game in the EuroLeague, the night before. And I love ultras. I was enjoying Partizan Grobari fans, chanting and dancing in the stands. And I was like, let's film it. Let's put it on Instagram because it's cool. My friend, my colleague, journalist Georgia was like, hey, put your phone down because they may treat you as a police officer in, let's say, civilian coverage and stuff like that. Just don't do it because they might think that you're trying to film their faces and stuff like that. So I was like, okay. I was doing like this. And my colleague was saying, hey, let's go to smoke the cigarette here around the corner outside the court. Okay, I thought that we will leave outside the arena. But basically it was just like getting off the arena, and on the next corner in the building, everybody was like smoking. There are 20, 30 Robocops, ready for everything. And there were like 30 people just smoking cigarettes inside the arena. But what I wanted to say about Belgrade's experience, watching Žalgiris players' faces during the game against Zvezda, again, it was Saras Žalgiris, and Žalgiris lost that game against Zvezda badly. It was the year when Vasilije Micic played his first season. He got some presents during the game in Belgrade because he's former Zvezda player. And I have to say that it probably was the first arena where I looked at players' eyes and I saw that they were scary. They were scary to enter the court. They were scary of what was going on in the stands. Because when the fans were started to shout, you couldn't hear the EuroLeague anthem before the game.
Yeah, because they boo the EuroLeague anthem.
Yeah. Or they boo, or they try to
they just sing.
Even more louder than it. And I felt goosebumps. And I kind of felt, okay, I will be just like this during all game long because I don't want to be in trouble because they might treat me as let's say, Žalgiris guy. There were some Žalgiris fans. There was one, I would say, quite famous Lithuanian singer. Probably he's not singing anymore. What was funny that he just drank too much that he was sleeping in the stands all game long. He missed the game actually, and he had some problems later in the charter flight coming back home. He got some conversation with Saras after that. So you can imagine Žalgiris losing game and him making problems in the charter flight and then having a conversation with Saras. But anyway, that's a different story. My third one would be Fenerbahce, because that's the best combination of the nice gym, great crowd. I love their announcer. He's kind of aggressive. He has amazing voice, and it's really very important. For example, I love Maccabi announcer, especially back in the day in 2000s. You could even try to impersonate him. I remember Karolis Tiškevičius, our colleague in Lithuania. He tried to impersonate him in Kaunas when he was also announcing Žalgiris games in the arena. So Fenerbahce have great fan base. They're super loud. The arena is something like Siemens Arena in Vilnius, but the thing is that Siemens is like getting wider and Ulker Arena is like getting, let's say, higher, and there's a much more pressure inside the court. So I love it. Maccabi,
honorable mention.
They're fourth on my list.
I could have guessed probably that you're gonna say these because it's obviously exceptional atmosphere. However, my impression about the Greek teams is that in order to feel this atmosphere, you need to go to an important game because...
or the team has to win games.
Yeah, because if the team's playing badly and they're just facing a random opponent, let's say Alba Berlin is coming to town and you're going to Oaxaca or Peace and Friendship Stadium, these are huge spaces. And if there will be not too many people, the noise will be lost somewhere and it will not be that great. That's my impression. But yes, when they are playing, let's say, quarterfinals of the EuroLeague or the Greek derby is happening, so it will be something to
that's the best thing you can imagine
to feel and to, I don't know, just witness.
Let's finish.
Thanks for your really detailed stories about your experiences.
We have some fan mail. Philip Rodel, sorry if pardon for pronouncing it
German?
Right. Yeah.
Rodel.
Okay, thanks.
Philip
like
Rodel.
Alba Berlin, something like that. Okay, so Philip, he's writing that thanks for another great episode, guys. Although Rita's shirt is questionable, I'd like to follow up on the part where you discussed Bayern's model as a potential future blueprint for Žalgiris, trusting foreign, mainly American players and not putting too much emphasis on integrating young prospects from the own youth academy. I personally agree with you here that Bayern's approach makes a lot of sense, and most Bayern fans definitely prefer seeing their team contending for the EuroLeague playoffs regularly over developing own talents. However, in Germany, the basketball bubble, which is relatively small, fortunately, is dominated by the Alba mindset that tends to see adding prospects to the senior team on a regular basis as a must-have. Naturally, this approach has its restrictions, as Alba will very likely not even come close to making it to the EuroLeague playoffs in the years to come. Still, Bayern is often criticized for relying too much on foreigners and not giving enough minutes to local youngsters. For that reason, I would be interested in getting your take on this topic in general, maybe while focusing on the two German EuroLeague teams, and in particular on one aspect. Do you think it's possible at EuroLeague level to be competitive for the playoffs race and integrate talents regularly into the roster with a mid-sized budget, leaving out teams like Real on the one and Crvena Zvezda on the other end?
If the talent is good enough, then it's possible. If you are just sort of doing it for the sake of it, it will never lead to good results. I think it's quite obvious. I believe that Alba doesn't only grow young German players, they're always looking for young players even from other countries, bringing some guys that maybe were overlooked by Italian clubs or Spanish clubs. They gave chances to Lithuanian players like Grigonis and Giedraitis. I think they're doing good scouting and finding talent, helping them grow, develop them, and then they go somewhere else. But I'm just thinking, what do you expect from your club? Do you expect results? Do you expect them to make the playoffs at some point? Let's say Bayern Munich.
I think the idea is to bring a community.
If the idea is to bring the community, then it's okay, fine, you live with it. You're happy that you sign foreigners like Luke Sigma, that like they sort of become part of this city. Like Luke Sigma, you look at him and you're thinking he's Alba Berlin's guy. It doesn't matter that he's American. However, if you want to be competitive, you want to win, you would go for Trinchieri project with the players he's signing, with the leaders that they have, and they don't care. German players, there are not too many good German players on the market, so they have Paul Zipsa, their captain, and they build a team around Americans, Lucic, Serbian, and other guys they're getting. So my idea is this. Growing young players in Europe in basketball is hopeless. There's no business in it. In football, for example, if you grow a player, you sell him for good money. If he's very talented and he ends up having a great career, you get some money from every single transfer he makes. You're his first club. You're his, like, the club that grew him as a player. So you're always getting some profits. It's a successful business model. In basketball, let's say you have a very talented young guy. He gets drafted, or you're selling him to other EuroLeague club. You get a buyout, a single buyout. Let's say 500K. That's it.
My God. And for example, Rokas Jokubaitis, he is the top prospect of Lithuanian basketball in recent years. And Barca bought him out for around 220 or 25, maximum 250 euros. It's crazy.
And another thing, if you're trying to win with youngsters, then these youngsters have to be good, but not too good. Because if they're too good, they're drafted, and by the age of 19, they're in the NBA. And you don't even get the time to have his best days in your club to try and win basketball games with him. He's getting drafted, then he's out. Bam, you get a buyout. At that moment, it seems okay. We got like 500K or 700K, but that's it. That's the last you heard of him. This player is gone. So in my opinion, if you have a mindset of trying to make the playoffs and winning basketball games, you cannot be focused on building a Lithuanian team or a German team, developing these homegrown players for the sake of it. But if it is just to bring the community, as you said, and have this good vibes feeling, then fine, do it. Go ahead. Go for it. I would always go for the Bayern Munich model.
Yeah, and these old partisan days are over. And it's like an exception. And it might happen once in a decade or something, but it's like more an exception of the rule. And I remember, for example, if we're talking about low budget teams, we can remember Žalgiris example. They were competitive. They were a Final Four team. They were a playoff team with Saras. But none of young players were playing for Žalgiris. All the young players were bench warmers. They were getting all minutes all in NKL and stuff like that. So that was just another example that is impossible. Okay, Real Madrid example is different because you have so much talent that you can allow yourself to bring one very young, good prospect on the court because he won't ruin things for you. But for teams like Žalgiris...
And if he breaks through to the Real Madrid team, he obviously is very good.
Yeah.
Ending this discussion, I would say this. We talked about German basketball, but bubble. So, okay, let's stay there. Dennis Schroeder, Daniel Theis, signing lucrative deals in America. Do their German clubs profit from that? Nope. Schroeder played where? Braunschweig? Does Braunschweig get better because Dennis Schroeder is now a superstar and he signed some great contracts in NBA? No. Does Bamberg get some profit from Daniel Theis signing contracts? Nope. So then, naturally, you have this question. Is it worth it? Or you can go for Darren Hilliard, Otello Hunter, and Deshaun Thomas to win you basketball games.
Yeah, we had another question. Povilas Asiavicius. It was a good question, but it was about Žalgiris, and probably we talked enough about Žalgiris. Yeah. So thanks, Povilas, but sorry for this.
Let's do something else.
Let's do something else, more entertaining and more joyful. Shako Gergobiani, he's asking, where's my Ataman impression? Not good, guys. Not good. That's all.
I'll wait till they get a good game, and then I will come back, and because I have something prepared, but I'm still waiting for them to have a...
Oh, you have something prepared, actually?
I do.
Wow.
But I need them to win against a good team.
My God.
And it's just not happening right now, so I still need to wait. Let's wait and see.
They have Alba Berlin. It's not a good team, right? It's not happening if they will win against Alba in Berlin.
Well, they're too modern and too good, but no.
Okay, then we have Olympiacos, November 17. So let's go Efes. We want that impression again. Donatas Lisauskas, Donatas and Rytis. How you think EuroLeague looks like in 5 and 10 years? Maybe you have additional information about plans, or you just have vision how EuroLeague should look like. Team numbers, popularity, fan bases, and so on.
Well, I have no inside information. I don't know about you, but
Me neither, yeah.
I think the way that EuroLeague is going, the end project should be 24 clubs, all of them with A license, no more sort of qualifications through Eurocup or anything like that, just 24 clubs playing a full regular season. I am not sure if that is possible in Europe, but in my opinion, this is how the end product should look like. 24 stable clubs that they can plan their finances, their budget, because they know they will be playing in the EuroLeague. In this case, of course, they would have like 46 games regular season, so probably they would not be playing in their national championships. These are difficult questions, but this is my imagination.
Yeah.
And if
ideal model,
if speaking realistically, 18 teams, it's stretched to the limits. If you add more, the schedule becomes unbearable. So I don't know where they're going from here. I really don't know. I have no idea.
I like the current format, except from the fact that they have to play domestic championships. But I like the current format. Maybe I would like to see Partizan and Virtus in the EuroLeague, but at the same time, then I would change the playoff rule. Even right now in the 18 teams tournaments, to have only 8 teams making the playoffs, I'm not sure. I would try to do something like 4 teams making the quarterfinals, and then from 5th to 12th, for example,
splitting.
Yeah, playing, let's say, 8 finals and stuff, just to have more teams competing for the playoffs.
Ideally, if you build a league like this, I wouldn't want to see Final Four format, to be honest.
No, there's no way. Yeah, that's the
I would want to see proper playoffs. But I believe I never said it in our English podcast. I've said it many times in Lithuanian podcasts that I was in. I'm not happy with European basketball in general.
No, that's terrible.
What is this? Formula. I mean, we're now talking about Žalgiris. They're not in a good situation. Rytas is beating them. Maybe Rytas can win the Lithuanian league. So what? Did they qualify? Did they get some money from that? Yeah. They will still playing there. Žalgiris will still have their A license, and nothing changes. And I believe that they've gone too far away from the sporting principle.
Yeah.
It's never happening in basketball.
It's hard to start everything from scratch right now.
They're trying to bring in some business element to the European basketball, even though they are like 10 or 20 years too late. But they are doing it, and they are not backing off from it. So this is what it is. The reality is that EuroLeague is like gentleman's club that you cannot enter on some merit. You need to be chosen. For example, Zenit was chosen.
Yeah.
Alba was, I'm sorry, not Alba, Asvel was chosen.
Yeah.
They decided that we need to have this club here, so we will have it. This is how it works, and I'm not a fan of it, to be honest. I'm a fan of EuroLeague basketball because the quality is amazing, and I enjoy it every week, but the whole principle, this is, I mean,
you just don't have any
for a football fan, let's say you always see fighting. In football, you always see teams fighting for places to go to Europe to get the UEFA coefficient ratings, and every place matters, every game matters. Now, what does the national championship even mean? What does it stand for? Other than it's for us, like we need to beat Rytas because we're Žalgiris. But the financial benefit or anything like that, it's not there. If they would be fighting for EuroLeague places, the champions go to EuroLeague, it will be different.
Before.
There will be a lot of pressure.
Like 15 years ago in Lithuania.
Žalgiris couldn't allow themselves to have a bad season because it could break them.
Yeah.
But now it's okay. Oh, we have a bad season. We signed these players. It didn't work out. Next season we'll start all over again. And Rytas will still be there somewhere. I don't think it's good. Even, the Spanish league is very competitive. They have their television money. It's a great league. But clubs like Unicaja or Valencia, they're stuck in between.
Yeah.
You play in the Euro Cup, then for 1 year you play in EuroLeague. Now Unicaja went to the FIBA Champions League. It's not good. It's not healthy.
It's messy in every category, actually.
Yeah, it is messy. Yeah, right here.
You mentioned about the buyouts. It's terrible formula. Also, we can have in consideration the schedule of FIBA national teams, then basketball calendar and stuff like that. It's so messy, and not Lionel, but some terrible stuff in European basketball. But it is what it is. How Coach Zdovc likes to say, look, it is what it is, and we're enjoying EuroLeague basketball, and that's it. We don't have any other alternatives. We're waiting, and we're staying positive. That's all, folks. Rytis Vyšniauskas, Nadas URBONUS. Always a pleasure. Thanks for watching us.
See you next week.
Follow us on basketnews.com, Basket News YouTube channel, and all the main audio platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, probably. Basically, all the main platforms. See you next week.